I welcome all the participants for the next session, cyber security using blockchain technology by Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Noy, Assistant Professor, IIIT Kanchipuram. Sir has received the BTech degree in Computer Science and Engineering from Biju Patnaik University of Technology, Odisha, and MTech from NIT Roorkela in 2013. And Sir has received PhD degree in Computer Science and Engineering from IIT Patna in 2019. Presently, he is working as Assistant Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at IIITM Kanchipuram. He has a working experience as assistant professor at Bennett University, Manipal University, and BITS Pilani Hyderabad campus. His research area interest includes cyber security issues in IoT and cloud computing, applied cryptography, multimedia encryption techniques, AI for cyber security, and blockchain technology. Now I request Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Naik sir to hand the session. Sir, please.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your kind words. Uh, so I'm sharing my screen. Is it visible, ma'am?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, very good morning, okay, to all the participants. And till now, I think you might have studied or you might have listened to the talks from different resource persons related to blockchain. Then what are the different techniques or tools available in blockchain technology? So I'm not going to discuss the tools and techniques of blockchain technology because those things already covered. I will give you a brief overview of cyber security, what are the issues available in cyber security, and then how these issues are resolved using blockchain, or I mean, where we can use blockchain technology and solve issues related to cyber security. Because nowadays government is focusing on cyber security issues very much, and cyber security is really essential. Whether whatever application you consider, whether it is a cloud application or whether it is an IoT application, any applications you consider, it is very much essential. So in this talk, we will see how can we use blockchain technology and solve cyber security problems. So first part of my talk will be focusing on what is cyber security, why it is required, and then I will come to a specific problem, and from a very small problem I will start discussing how can we incorporate blockchain, or what is the need of blockchain, why blockchain is required in that problem, that we will see. Okay. And in between, we will discuss a few more challenges also that can be solved using blockchain, few more cyber security issues that we are going to see. So, just to start with, nowadays everywhere, if you will see, there is data. Okay, so in 2019, Mukesh Ambani ji, what he told that data is the new oil. What is the meaning? Meaning is, like, who is having data, they are rich. Okay, so rich people are not counted based on how much wealth they have, how much gold they have, but nowadays people are, the definition of rich is changed. So people are thinking that who is having more data, they are rich people. Okay. So therefore we need to see who is having how much of data. So therefore in 2019 he told data is the new oil. Okay. Now, whenever we are talking about data, there are different questions that come related to data, and those questions I summarized into 5 questions. Okay, so that's why in the slide I put 5 questions related to data. Apart from these 5 questions, we have different other questions also. But just to summarize, I mean, I consolidated all the questions and tried to come up with these 5 questions. So first question is, how do we get data? Okay, nowadays everywhere data is available, whether you use any mobile devices or use any sensors or use any platform, social media, anywhere, everywhere you will get data. So major challenge that is how to get the data. Okay, and in this we have sensor devices, we have some other devices, but majority of data is collected using sensor devices. So the challenge is what, sensors are very small devices, very tiny devices. They have limited resources. So we need to see how can we collect maximum amount of data using minimum number of sensors. That is the first thing that we need to see. Okay. Next thing, that next question is how data will be communicated. Okay, next question is how data will be communicated. So once we collected the data using the sensor, then the data need to be communicated. And why data need to be communicated? Because sensor doesn't have enough memory, enough power. They don't have. So that's the reason we need data to be communicated. Okay, that is the main reason. Now, how do we communicate the data? Obviously, we need some networking mechanism. Okay, so some network is required so that we can connect with the uh, server. Okay, so this network that we are dealing with is has to be free. Okay, then only sensors can send. So how to find whether network is free or not? That is the next challenge. So we need to check uh, how to communicate the data using the network. And in network, we have to find whether the channel is free or not. That is another issue. Third one is where data will be managed. So we need to see where we can manage the data. So data management is very much essential because in the sensors we cannot store the data, and we are collecting huge amount of data nowadays, and the data needs to be stored in some cloud storage. Okay, and this cloud storage is a third party application. We say why it is third party applications, because we don't have any control on cloud storage. Whenever we are using, let us suppose Google Drive or uh, Amazon S3 we are using for storage, then those are not in our control. We are not controlling them. This storage space that is controlled by a third party. Okay, so there could be some issue that we will come to this later. Okay, so the third question is where the data will be managed. It will be managed in cloud storage because the storage space is huge. Okay, we can store data in terms of terabytes of data we can store. That's the reason. Then next question is why we are storing the data in the cloud. What is the need? The need is because we want to predict something, because we want to come to a conclusion. Like for example, we have collected weather information for the past 10 years. Now what will happen in the next year? So we can predict that. Okay, like between this period to this period, there could be a possibility of rain, there could be a possibility of thunderstorm. All these things we can predict. And how can we do that? That we are doing using some machine learning techniques. Okay, so machine learning is nowadays uh, hot topic because of this, because we can predict, and data prediction is very much essential. It is helping in day-to-day activity very much. Okay, suppose it will tell that it is going to rain, so similar precautions we can take. Okay, so like that. And the last question is how to secure the data in the transmission and storage. So we need to secure the data that is being transmitted. Why security is required? The whenever the weather information is getting collected, that doesn't matter. Okay, if anybody see that, but suppose some pacemaker is implemented into some patients and the patient data is being transferred. Okay, to a cloud storage. And why we are transferring? Because some doctor remotely accessing the patient, and based on that they are giving some medication. Okay? That could be the scenario. So therefore, in that case also, we need to secure the data in the transmission and storage. And whenever we are securing, then we need some technique, that is cryptography and blockchain technology are very much helpful. So we will see how can we secure and how can we do the processing also. So these are the 5 questions related to data. Apart from this, some other questions are also available, but these are basic. I mean, it is making a complete ecosystem related to data. If you will consider the cyber physical system, then we have sensors, we have networks, we have cloud storage. So all these are making a ecosystem, and then whenever data is getting stored, we are doing some machine learning and getting some fruitful results for our analysis. And on the top of that, we need to secure the data that is being transmitted. Okay, and even if data is getting modified, we need to check that. Okay, it is not that we will use wrong data. We cannot get 100% security. That is very difficult to get, but we need to see. Okay, we need to see how can we secure the communication. So even if we made it secure, then if any attack is happening or somebody is changing the data, we need to check that. Okay, so therefore these are the 5 questions that is very important whenever we are dealing with data. Okay, now recently in the October 5th, okay, you might have come across this news. What is it? Like WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, okay, they were stopped from night 9 around 9 p.m. to morning 4 a.m. And during this period, the CEO of Facebook, he loses around $6 billion US dollars. Okay, see how much the data is changing, how much effect it is putting on a company. Okay, so therefore data is very much important nowadays. That's why what the Reliance Group chairman he told in 2019 is very much okay. Nowadays, who is having data, they are more rich. So if you will come across this news, then this you would have learned how much important data is. Okay, so data is very much important nowadays, and we need to see, or we need to secure the data. It is very much important, and there comes cyber security. Okay, so I will just give a brief of cloud storage, because my talk will be focusing on cloud storage, and all the participants maybe uh, all might have used cloud service, whether it is Google Cloud Platform or Dropbox or OneDrive, any cloud, anybody have used there. I believe all of you have used cloud storage. Okay, but uh, there are some issues related to cloud storage that I am going to focus in my talk. Okay, and those issues, how can we resolve using blockchain technology? So just to give a brief overview, what is a cloud storage? It is a cloud computing model, and here data is stored in remote server. Okay, we store the data in a remote server. Data is not in our control. That is the first thing. And it is managed and operated by cloud service provider. We do not manage the data. We do not care about the data. Okay, I don't have to keep my system 24/7 on. That I don't have to do. Cloud has to do, so that my clients will get the services that I am offering, and using internet anybody can access. So that is a very big advantage that we are getting. Okay, so cloud storage, we can share, we can share photos, contacts, videos, everything we can share, and the main advantage that we are getting out of cloud storage is cost saving. Okay, so how do we get cost saving? Because whenever we are storing any data in the cloud, okay, whenever we are storing any data in the cloud, then cost that is incurred, the cost that is incurred, okay, if I will not use cloud, will be huge. Why? Because I have to purchase system, I have to purchase memory, I have to purchase networking, I have to purchase cooling system, rooms, all these things I have to purchase. Okay, whenever I am starting my business, so it will cost too much, and therefore what I need to do, I need to go for cloud storage where all this overhead will be reduced, all this overhead will not be there. Okay, so then what is the advantage that we will get? We are getting accessibility. That means 24/7 accessibility is there. Suppose it is my local system and some power outage happened, so then my client will not get the system. Okay, and that will create some issue with my reputation. Okay, so therefore accessibility is around 99%. Then syncing means what? Like whatever is available in my device. Okay, let us suppose I modified in my this system. Okay, local system in my cloud, I modified using my local laptop. Even if I will go to some other places, or if I will give my ID password to some other uh, friends available in US, they can also see the same file, updated file in their desktop. Okay, so it will sync throughout all the devices where my cloud storage is linked. Okay, so therefore this is very much important. Next one is sharing. We need to share. Okay. We need to share. Otherwise, why we are storing in cloud? Okay. We are storing it in the cloud because we want to share our data. So therefore, there are different advantages that is available related to cloud storage, and that's why we are using. But whenever we are storing the data in the cloud, there are some security issues which is very much important. And what are the security issues that we are getting is this, or why we are getting security issues? Because in cloud we follow virtual machine. Okay, it is just like some people have more hardware resources. Okay, so therefore they are offering their hardware resources to others on payment basis. Okay, let us suppose I have 100 terabytes of hard disk. Okay, I may not use 100 terabyte of hard disk every time. So what I will do, I will give my 50% of storage to cloud, so that anybody can use it for a certain time, and then I will get the money from that. Okay, so therefore it is helpful. It is a business paradigm. Okay. Now, whenever we are allowing such facilities in the cloud, okay, and what is the meaning? What we are doing? It is allowing a co-tenancy. Okay, co-tenancy means multiple virtual machines on the same physical machine. So multiple virtual machines, like this is a virtual machine, this is a virtual machine we are creating, because these virtual machines are used for different purpose, different users. Okay, so therefore whenever two virtual machines for the same user is available in a particular hardware, that doesn't make any problem. But whenever two different business entities, they are storing their data using the virtual machine which are present on the same hardware, that means what I am saying, multiple virtual machines belongs to different users are present on the same physical machine. If in that case somebody is using the key, or somebody has stored a key, and then the other person can extract that. Okay, because they are stored in the same hardware with some little bit of intelligence, little bit of uh, technological advancement, they can access it. Okay, so the technique is side channel information, we say. Okay, so I'm not going into detail, but there are some mechanisms are available through which we can access it. So this creates an issue. This creates an issue. So therefore, of course, we will use cloud services. We will use cloud techniques, but along with that, we need to implement security measures also, because the data owner has to rely on the cloud service provider for the fate of its data, because the data is not in my own system. I cannot put a lock. I am storing it in cloud, so therefore some mechanism, some security mechanism is essential, and we need to put that. Okay. So what are the research challenges then? Okay. So different challenges are there. The first one is, if attacker finds where the cloud instance is located, then that might create some issue. Okay, right. We need to check, we need to restrict the attacker from finding where the cloud instance is there. Okay, like I will show you one demo. I will show you related to cloud. How can we create cloud instance on this thing after 2-3 minutes. So first research challenge is, if attacker finds where the cloud, where in the cloud an instance is located, then it is very difficult. Next one is, if attacker finds two instances which are co-resident on the same physical machine. So on the physical machine, if we have two virtual machines, and if attacker knows, then they can give money to some person and they can extract or they can manipulate the data. Okay. So these are some of the challenges that we need to address whenever we are dealing with cloud. So ultimately, what is the story till now? The story till now is, we will use cloud service, and with some precautions, okay, with some security measures we need to use it. Otherwise, it will be a problem. Okay. So if an adversary launches instances that will be co-resident with other legitimate user instances. Okay. So therefore, it is very much essential that we need to check it. Okay. The research challenges we need to check it. Okay. So the next thing that I want to show is, what are the 5 security threats. Okay, so whenever we are dealing with cloud, security plays a major important role, and we need to identify what are the threats. It is not that one solution will be for all types of attacks. It is not possible. So we need to check what are the different attacks that is happening nowadays, and how can we prevent each and every attack, or we will try to protect. So here I listed out top 5 security threats. Okay. So if you will see, unauthorized access is 63%. Unauthorized access is 63%. That means what? Around 63% of attacks that is happening is based on unauthorized attack only. Okay. So 63 percent of people told that in the survey that unauthorized access is happening too much. And one real life example I can give you, around in I think 2015 or some or the same time, Dropbox allowed logging into the cloud system by simply giving the username without any password. So imagine what will happen if somebody has stored any personal data, any sensitive data, then anybody can access if they know the username. And username is generally, it is public. Okay, so some people keep their email ID as username. So therefore, unauthorized access is happening too much. Okay. So we need to ensure that unauthorized access should not happen. Next one is hijacking of accounts, services, and traffic. Okay. So we need to see how people are attacking or hijacking the traffic, because the data that is communicated from the sensors to the cloud. Remember, in the first slide I told how data, what are the different questions related to data. So the second question is how data is being transferred. So data is being transferred using networking. So therefore, hijacking of accounts and services and traffic, it is happening next attack. So we need to see how to prevent that. Okay. Even if they hijack the network, they should not read the content that is available in the data. Okay. So whenever data, sensitive data we are transferring, they should not see it. Next one is malicious insider. What do you mean by malicious insider? Malicious insider are the persons who are inside the cloud. That means what? Inside the cloud means the employees of the cloud service provider. Okay. They are also human beings. Somebody can give money to them and can ask them to do some mischievous activity. That can happen. So that also we need to see. So therefore, whenever we are storing data, we need to ensure how can we protect them. Okay, how can we protect them, and how can, even if any malicious insider is present, they cannot attack it. So that we need to see. Then insecure interface or API. Okay, insecure interface or API. This is very much important. We need to check. Okay, we need to check whether the application programming interface that we have used, because we will use some API to send the data from the sensors to the cloud, right? And in that API, we need to check whether there is any security loophole is available or not, because these security loopholes may lead to some attack, disclosure of some data. Okay. And the last one is denial of service attack, and this attack, I think all of you might have known, it is just like preventing a service. Okay. So let us suppose my bandwidth is limited. Okay, and in that limited bandwidth, I can give service to 100 users. Okay. Now, if from one location, if 100 requests are coming for cloud service, then the network will get jammed. Okay. So no other clients can get the access. So these kind of attacks also we need to stop. Okay. So therefore, these are different attacks that may happen in case of cloud. So we need to be very much cautious, very much alert, and we need to incorporate security mechanisms before implementation of cloud or before using cloud. Okay. So just let me show you one demo. Okay. So is there any doubt till now? Anybody, you can ask. Till that time I will set up this cloud. Anybody has any doubt, you can ask. I'm setting my cloud account so that I can show you some demo. Good. Okay, so let me share it again. Okay, so can you see this AWS console? I believe it is visible. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so whenever you will create Amazon, uh, okay, let me show you. Okay, so what do we do? AWS, Amazon Web Services. Okay, here you need to create one account, and creation of account in Amazon Web Services is free up to certain extent. Okay, so they generally give 750 hours or 1 year. Okay, so whichever is later that they will use. So after 1 year they will charge, because until unless you see a demo you cannot believe, right? So that's why if you will see, like nowadays, if you will go and want to purchase a car, the people will give you for a test drive. Okay, similar kind of things happening here. So Amazon will give you around 750 credits, and using that 750 credits you can do it. Okay, so therefore it is essential that you use it efficiently. Okay, so I created my account long back, okay, around 2016, and I attend different sessions. Like if you will attend different sessions of Amazon, so they will give you some credit. Okay, like here you can see, if you will go to credits, last 6 months some credits expired. Okay, they gave me $25, $25, because my free credit already expired. Okay, because one that is already over. Okay, so therefore this all these credits they will give, and you can use this credit, and they do different events so that you can use the credit. Okay, so let me go to home. Okay, and do some demo. Now there are different services provided by Amazon. Okay, so whether it is analytics, whether it is augmented reality or virtual reality, whether it is blockchain, whether it is business applications, if we want to do some computation, okay, some internet based, IoT based applications are available. A lot of things are available in Amazon. So, nowadays, this quantum technologies are coming into picture. So therefore, lot of things are coming, and storage. If you will see, we have S3. Okay. So therefore, lot of options are available, and they can be used as cloud service. But we need to see how to create cloud instance. Okay. So for that, what I will do, I will go to compute, and in compute, I will go to EC2. EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. Okay. So here, what we will do, we will create an instance. So let me show you how to create instance. So you need to click on launch instance. Then whenever you will try to click on launch instance, so what it will do, it will ask me for Amazon machine image. Okay, so Amazon machine image is nothing but exact replica of operating system in our system. Okay, so this is my laptop. In this laptop I have Mac OS. Okay, because this is Apple system, but some people will have Windows operating system, some will have Ubuntu operating system, so therefore it is similar to that. So Amazon machine image is a template that contains the software configuration of operating system. Okay. So here different operating systems are available. So based on your requirement, you can choose one. Okay. So I will use the free version, that is Ubuntu Server 20.04. Some are not free. Okay. So I will use this. And then because we are using cloud service, so we need to choose the instance type that we want. Okay, so what are the instance type, how many virtual CPUs we need, how much memory we need. Okay, that we need to see. So if you want like any amount, like see, if I will go on, scroll down this, number of CPUs are increasing, number of storage is increasing. Like see, 64 CPUs, 128 GB of primary memory is available. Okay, so as per your requirement, you will get 192 GB of 192 virtual CPUs, and then 768 GB of memory. Okay, so as per your application, you can choose the virtual machine, and they will charge you based on that. So I will keep the free version. Okay, that is one virtual CPU, 1 GB of memory. Okay, then I will go next. Here again for the free versions they give 30 GB of memory. Okay, for the free versions they give 30 GB of memory, and from that 30 GB whatever is required you can use. So I kept only 8 GB because this is a small demo I want to show you. Next thing is security group we need to configure. This is very important. What is security group? It is just like a firewall. Okay, so we need to control the traffic. So suppose you know that from certain IP address you are getting attack or you are getting some issues. So you can block those. Okay. So for those purpose we can use security group. Okay, so I have already created one security group, and in that I am allowing TCP protocol, and this source 0.0.0.0 this IPv4 address if I will keep, then everybody can access. Okay, it is, that's why it is saying your security group is open to the world. So anybody from the world they can access it. Then again I will create on lunch. Okay, so once I will click on lunch, then what will happen, it will ask me for a key. Okay, I think one session was there, blockchain and cryptography. Okay, and in that you might have studied about this private key and public key. These are cryptographic techniques, and what happens, we create one setup key, and public key is available for public. Okay, so anybody wants to send any data to me, so what they will do, they will encrypt the data using my public key, and they will send it to me once I receive the data. Okay, once I receive the data, then what I will do, I need to decrypt it. And how can I decrypt it? I can decrypt it using my private key. Okay. So therefore, this is a combination. Public key and private key is used in case of public key cryptography, so that we can incorporate security into our mechanism. Okay. If I will not use cryptography or this keys, then anybody can access my data. Okay, and that I don't want. I don't want that somebody will access my data. Okay, so therefore this key is there. So anybody who is having the key, they can only access my data. Okay. So what I am doing is, if you don't have any key, okay, so then you need to create a key. Okay, from here you can download the key pair, and it will give you the private key. The corresponding public key is stored in Amazon. Okay, but I have already created an existing key pair. So what I will do, uh, I will tell that I have the key. Okay, Sanjeev demo is my key because I have already downloaded, and it is the private key stored in my system. Okay, so I will click on launch instance. Okay, now I will click, and this is the process. Okay, so if I will summarize what I did, I created Amazon machine image, that is the operating system. Then I chose how many CPUs I need, how much memory I need. Then I chose how much hard disk I need, because I am creating a virtual machine. That's the reason. Then security group I need to choose, what kind of traffic I need to allow, all those things I can check. Last thing that I set up is the public and private key. Okay, so that key pair is very much essential. Otherwise, you cannot communicate. Okay. Now let us see what are the things that is available for us. Whether the instance is created or not till now. Yes, the instance is running. Okay. Now let us see and try to connect it. Okay. So to connect it, what is the command that I need to write? The command is SSH. Okay, so SSH securely I am connecting to my cloud. Then Sanjeev demo.pm. This already there in my desktop folder. Okay, the key that I have downloaded, the private key. Then Ubuntu is the username, and after giving the username, I need to give the IPv4 domain name. Okay, and you can, if you will click here, it will be copied, and then you can paste the same address. Okay, so once you paste the address, then if you will click, okay, so what it will do, it is asking me whether, are you sure you want to continue? I will tell yes, I am sure. Then it will connect me to my cloud instance. Okay, now you see the IP address 172.31.15.122, and that is the same IP address, private IP address given here. Okay, that means I have connected to the same instance that I have created in the cloud. Okay, 172.31.15.122. This is the instance that I have created in the cloud. Okay. Now, once the instance is created, let us see, is there anything? No, there is nothing in my cloud. Okay. Now, let me create a folder. Okay. Let me create one folder inside this. Okay. Once the folder is created, let me go inside the folder. Inside the folder, nothing is there. Okay. So, if you want to see, you can see it is nothing. Okay. So, let me come out of this cloud. Okay. Now we need to see how to transfer a file. Okay, that is very important. So to transfer a file, we need to write a command, and that command is this SCP. So SCP stands for secure copy. Okay, and in this I need to paste the the IP address and the domain name address. Okay, that is EC2 hyphen this. Okay, and this is created in US West region. Okay, US West region, the cloud instance is created, and in that, under the root directory, I have another directory folder, that is Sanjeev I have created. Inside that, I want my hello1.c file to be stored. Where this hello1.c file is present, this is present in my desktop. Okay, and again, I am giving my private key because I want to communicate to this. Okay, so now if I will press enter, it will tell me whether the file has been successfully copied or not. Yes, it is telling 100% it is copied. Okay, so now I need to see whether the file is successfully copied or not. Okay. So let me go to my cloud instance again. So next time it will not ask whether sure I want to go or not. Okay, it won't ask. So I will come here. Okay, and I will check, is there anything? Yes, my folder is there. Then I will go inside the Sanjeev and I will check. Yes, now you see the same folder is the same file that is present. Okay, so if you want to see, you can see this. This is the file that I already wrote. Okay, right. So therefore, it is very important how to transfer the file from local system to the cloud and from cloud to the local system. It is very much essential. Okay. So therefore, like this way, we can create an instance in the cloud and we can store the data in the cloud. Similarly, if you want to download any data that is present in cloud to the local system, that also you can do. And once this mechanism is implemented, then you can write your security thing. Okay, that I am going to discuss next. Okay, so before that, let me close the connection. Okay, let me close my cloud instance, otherwise it will charge money from me, which I don't want. So I need to select the instance and I need to terminate the uh, cloud instance that I have created. Okay, otherwise they will charge money from me, and I don't have extra credits that is available. So therefore I need to close it. Now you can see the running instances is 0. Okay, so now it is safe, no problem. Okay, so let us move to the next. Okay, So next thing is, yeah, the third command also I gave. Okay, how can you download any file that is available in the cloud to your local system? Okay, so this is the all about your implementations. And once this fundamental things that I discussed is over, okay, next thing that I want to talk about is what are the security mechanisms that is available in current scenario. Okay, what are the different security mechanisms that is available in current scenario? So whenever we deal with security, this CIA model is very much important. And if you will ask any security experts, then they will tell you, please follow CIA model. Then what is this CIA? CIA is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And what is the meaning? Confidentiality means how can we prevent unauthorized disclosure of information. So whenever we are dealing with any secure information, okay, that is my sensitive data is available, then we need to prevent it from unauthorized disclosure, right? The data somebody should not see it. So for that, we need to incorporate confidentiality techniques. And how can we achieve confidentiality? There are different encryption mechanisms that is available. Okay, I will just touch upon this confidentiality. How can we achieve it? Next is integrity. Okay, integrity means what? Integrity means the data that is transferred in the communication network after reaching to the receiver. Okay, receiver should ensure that the data that is being transferred is intact, it has not been modified in the channel. Okay, that he needs to ensure. And how can he ensure about that? He needs to follow some integrity mechanism. Integrity is very much essential. Okay, integrity is required. Without integrity it is not possible. Okay, then the last one is the data has to be available. That means what? The data that the service that we are offering to the client using cloud service, that has to be available throughout. If the data is not available throughout, if the data is not available throughout, then it is a problem. Then it is a problem. Okay. So therefore, we need to see, or we need to ensure that whether data is available or not, whether integrity mechanism is incorporated or not, whether confidentiality is achieved or not. So therefore, it is stands for CIA. Okay, and this is a very important model whenever we are considering essential security services. Apart from these essential security services, we have some security services like non-repudiation, authentication, okay, all these things, but uh, those things are still there. Okay, so this is not a complete model, but this is just a basic and essential security services model. Okay. Now, we told that we need to achieve confidentiality, and confidentiality is very much important. So first I will discuss what are the measures or what are the things that we need to follow to achieve confidentiality. And whenever we are dealing with cloud storage, this is the mechanism that happens. Some data owner will be there and data owner will share the data and it will store it in the cloud server. And whenever the data is stored in the cloud server, then they can access it. They can access it, these data users. But here there is an issue. What is the issue? The data that is communicated in the network or the data that is stored in the cloud. Okay, these things are visible. Visible means what? If you will store it in normal text without encryption, then anybody can see. Even the employees of the cloud service provider, they can also see. Then how can I tell that my data is secure? It is very difficult to tell data is secure. Okay, I cannot say. So therefore, what we need to do, we need to incorporate some privacy mechanisms. We need to incorporate some privacy mechanisms. And how can we do that? We need to encrypt the data before sending it. Okay. So if privacy is essential, then we need to incorporate encryption mechanism. Okay. Now, to incorporate encryption mechanisms, that is what we, as a human being, we will understand that these are the things that we need to do. Okay, and those who are technically sound, they will think that yeah, this is very much essential, and I need to encrypt my data before storing it into the cloud. But some people who doesn't understand technical terms or not that much technically sound, then for those people, government has to do some measures. Okay, so some cyber security measures implemented by government I will discuss. So first one that I am discussing is general data protection regulations. Okay, these are government initiatives, and what are the initiatives implemented by government, that is very much important and we need to see. So first one is this General Data Protection Regulation, or in short we say GDPR. Okay, in short we say GDPR. So what it will do? It is European Data Protection Regulation. Okay, so European Data Protection Regulation to harmonize data privacy laws across Europe. Okay, so European Union, there are different countries, all propose this GDPR. Okay, and in their assembly it is passed. Okay, so now since May 25th, 2018, any service provider that want to provide service to the users residing in European Union, they have to follow GDPR. Otherwise, they cannot start their service inside the European Union country. And what are the terms and conditions available in GDPR? Okay, so in GDPR, there are different articles available. Okay, so if you will go to this website, okay, GDPR info, so you will get different chapters, and in each chapter different articles are available. Okay, and processing of personal data, what are the principles, the lawfulness of processing. Okay, so different articles are there, and if you want to access this information, I will share in the chat box. If you want, you can go through this website, okay, and you can get the information related to GDPR. Here I have summarized few articles which is very much important. Okay, rest all you can see. So suppose you want to go to any chapter, and then in that chapter if you want to see any definitions or anything for what is personal data, okay, they wrote very clearly. So all these things, what is biometric data, okay, data concerning health data is very much essential. You need to be more cautious about health data. So all these things are mentioned in GDPR. Okay. So first one is, the first thing that I want to discuss is consent. So what do you mean by consent? So consent means whenever any cloud service provider will share the data with anybody else. Let us suppose, for example, healthcare record. Okay. Now patient is the owner because it is his data. Now suppose patient is the owner and they have stored the data in the cloud, and cloud has shared that data with the insurance service provider. Okay, then it is totally mess. He should not do it. Why? Because then the very next day, in this insurance people will come and they will tell, okay, you have this problem, so we cannot give insurance for you. Okay, so whatever is required, that many information only the cloud service provider should give to the insurance provider, provided the consent from the user has been obtained. That is very important. Consent of the user is very much important. If you are not following this, your service will be stopped inside European Union. Okay, and correspondingly there are fines or penalties are also available Okay, for the first instance, they will give you a warning or they will give some fine, and next time onwards they can stop your service from the European Union. Like for example, you remember, you see, like Facebook, if they stop Facebook from European Union, how much loss they will get, because nowadays data is the real wealth. Okay, so if you have data, you are rich person. So therefore, imagine. So therefore, nowadays the companies have to believe or they have to obey the GDPR regulations. They need to mention we are GDPR compliant. Okay, that they need to mention. Next thing is data protection officer. So what is the role of data protection officer? Data protection officer is a person or is a person who addresses data protection related issues from the company. Okay, so suppose one user told that my data is leaked to an outside, so kindly look into the matter. So now who will address those concerns? So for that, each company has to put one data protection officer. They will check it. Okay. Therefore, it is very much important that we need to keep a data protection officer. And if you are not keeping, then you are not GDPR compliant. Third thing is encryption. Encryption means what? So whenever some sensitive data you are storing, you need to encrypt or you need to provide encryption, because these encryption techniques many users might not be knowing. So therefore, we need to put some encryption mechanism. Last one is fines and penalties. Okay, fines and penalties. So fine is very much essential. We need to collect the fine and we need to take the penalty. Okay. Last three things are very much important. What are the three things? Right of access, right to be informed, and right to be forgotten. Right of access means who needs to get which right, that patient will decide. Like doctor can access which data, lab technicians can access which data, then insurance service provider can access which data. So all these things has to be provided by this right of access article. All these things are mentioned. So user has to tell, because user is the real owner of the data. It is not the hospital. User is the data. Okay. So therefore, it is very much essential that we, whenever we are providing any services in a region, then we need to tell or we need to ensure right of access is given. Then right to be informed. What is the meaning? So sometimes you will see that there is a breach in the data. Okay, like this many password leaked, this much users data is compromised. All this news generally comes. So we need to tell the user that your data is compromised, even if our reputation is going down. Some companies, what they do, they don't inform it. Okay, and if they are not informing, then they are not GDPR compliant. They are violating the Article 12 of GDPR. So therefore, right to be informed, we need to be informed. The cloud service provider need to inform the user. Okay. Then the last one is right to be forgotten. Right to be forgotten means what? Means we need to tell. Okay, we need to tell. Suppose I am one user and I told that, yeah, this health record you please delete. Okay, yeah, this health record you please delete, and then the cloud service provider has to delete the data. If they are not deleting it, then they are not GDPR compliant. So one instance I will tell you, in Dropbox, what happened in 2012, one user deleted the data from his account. Okay, some folders or some files he kept, he deleted. Then again in 2015, when he opened the account, he got surprised by looking into the same data available in his account. Due to some bug, it has appeared, but he becomes surprised. The data is still available. That means what? They are simply hiding the data and they are not deleting. But what is their job? Their job is to delete the data. The user told to delete. It is not that you keep the view option disabled. It is not like that. Okay. So therefore, the last one is right to be forgotten. Okay. So these are all, not all, these are some regulations that is provided by GDPR and we should know. Then similarly, if you will come to Indian context, okay, in Indian context also we have Indian Personal Data Protection Bill, and till now it is passed in the Lok Sabha, okay, in 2019, and once it is get approval from other parts of the parliament, then it will become a bill, okay, act. Then what will happen? The Personal Data Protection Bill, it is the similar versions of the GDPR, okay. And if you want, you can go to this website, okay. This is 164, this Lok Sabha bill, okay. So this Personal Data Protection Bill, I am sharing the link. I am not going to discuss it because the similar kind of rules are available here, okay. Like you need a data protection of officer, you need penalties and compensation, right to be forgotten, right to correction and eraser. Okay, any user is telling to do some correction and they are telling to erase it, then you need to do it, you need to follow it. That's why there was a session going on between Twitter and our IT minister before some months. Okay, you might have heard this news. Okay, that is due to some rules and regulations mentioned in Indian Data Protection Bill. They were not listening. So therefore, if you want to do some service in our country, then you have to follow this. Otherwise, what was there, whatever data related to Indian nationals you are storing, you need to store in a data center that is available in our country. You cannot store data in other countries. That is what is mentioned in the bill. But these people were not listening. Okay, so therefore there was a pressure. Then, like that, different countries have their own data protection bills, and this is what government is doing to protect the user data. Okay, so therefore, as other countries started investing in cyber security, they started looking into the cyber security issues. In our country also we started looking into the different mechanisms that is available. So to look into the cyber security issues, NASSCOM set up a center for security, and that is known as Data Security Council of India. You can search it and you can have a look for all these things. Okay, so what are the techniques available, what are the tools provided by them? Okay, they provide different measures, different security measures they provide, and you can go to their website and you can see, okay, Data Security Council of India, you can see what are the roles they are and they are providing. They are do many conferences, many things they do, and you can easily go to their website and you can learn. Okay, so in Twitter also they are very much active, and they do different conferences, different things they do. Okay, here you can learn all these things. Okay, then so India will soon have a new cyber security policy, and it is still people are working on it. Okay, then apart from this cyber security policy, this national digital health mission is very much important nowadays. Okay, if you will see, then we are collecting this health information. right? Because nowadays, if you will see, every doctor will give you a prescription, and in that they will write what are the medicines that is required. All these things they will mention. Okay, and that is not good, because if you will go to some other place, then that person will do again all the tests, all these things. Okay, and they may not read, may not get the physical document. So therefore, Indian government, they started investing in National Digital Health Mission. Okay. And in this digital health mission, what they told, they will create one health ID, and in that health ID, individual's medical record will be stored. Okay, individual medical record will be stored. So whenever we will store individual's medical record, okay, then the telemedicine firm, pharmacy, insurance companies, hospitals, laboratories, all are the stakeholder of that data. But we should not give the same access to all of them, isn't it? So how much access we will give to hospitals or doctors? We need to give very less access to the insurance companies and pharmacies, all these things. Okay. So therefore, all these essentials need to be incorporated, and on the top of it, the health data, that is, suppose I did some test in some laboratory, and tomorrow I am traveling to some other place. Then there I can show to some doctor. Okay, they cannot say that no, I need to do the test again. Okay? If it is already approved, then we can check it. So lot of advantages are available in case of digital health mission, and that our Prime Minister, I think he announced in 2020, and in 2021 they launched this Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission Health ID. Okay, so if you will go Health ID, okay, so this website, okay, so you can go to this website. I am sharing the link in the chat box. You can get what are the things available for related to Ayushman Bharat. Okay, digital health mission. So what they did, why created an ID? It is a unique health ID. Okay, towards creating a safer and efficient digital health record for you and your family. So it is a safe and secure and efficient, they are telling. Okay, so you can tell it is, it is just like voluntary option. You can come, it is not compulsory. Okay, then it is accessible to doctors. Okay, enable access to verified doctors across country. They can see, you can get advice from anybody. Okay, and it is consent based access. This is where we need to focus. Access to your health data is provided after your clear and informed consent. Later you can revoke also, revoke the consent. Suppose somebody, you have given access to somebody, then you can revoke it later. Okay, so therefore this is very important, and because of this, it is getting popular. So therefore government also taking lot of initiatives to do this task. Okay, so nowadays, till now, what we saw, uh, we will use cloud services, we will store the data in the cloud, but before that, we need to encrypt the data if it is sensitive, and we will store in the cloud. We saw an implementation demo where how to create Amazon machine image, how to create different virtual CPUs, what are the different techniques available that we saw, how to store the data, how to retrieve the data, how to connect it, all the secure communications also we saw. In addition to that, what are the government initiatives to secure the data we saw? So these are the cyber security policies that are incorporated or that are implemented using government. Now we will see, or we will focus on the problem statement, and this is a specific problem that I want to highlight. So I will come with a very basic solution to the problem till the last one, where I will tell you how blockchain can help us in solving the security issue, cyber security issue. So I told that why do I trust cloud service provider? Okay. So there are two things. We will not trust cloud service provider. We will store the data, and sometimes we need to do auditing, or we need to check. What is the auditing means? We need to verify the integrity of the data, right? Because we are storing huge amount of data in the cloud, it is very difficult to check each and every individual data whether it is correct or not in regular interval of time. So cloud can take advantage of this. What they will do, they will accidentally delete some data, or intentionally they can delete the data, and they will not inform us. Okay, so the data that I haven't used for 1 year or so, what they will do, they will delete it, and the same money they will charge from me for the that space, and they will charge it from others. Okay, so therefore it is not a good solution. Okay, so we need to detect whether CSP is lying to us or not, and how can we see that we are going to see next. Okay, so data corruption in cloud. So data owner, this is cloud, and we have a data owner, and they have stored 5 blocks. Okay, M1, M2, M3, M4, and M5. Then there are some external attackers. What they did, they modified the first block and fifth block. Okay, this all are, even though they are encrypted, but they can modify the data, right? They can modify the data. After modification, it has become M1 prime and M5 prime. Then there is one internal attacker, because I already told some employees can be manipulated and they can be attacked. We can give some money to them, and we can ask them to modify the data. Like this, what they did, they modified the data to M2 prime and they deleted M4. Okay, this M4 data is deleted. Now, whenever any data user will access the data from the cloud, what he will get? He will get M1 prime, M2 prime, M3, because M3 is not modified. He will not get M4, and he will get M5 prime. But how data user will know that only 4 blocks are there, out of which 3 blocks are already modified? So how he will ensure? And this is very much important. Like data owners, they are updating their medical records into the cloud, and in cloud somebody has modified. Now doctor needs to check before utilization. They need to ensure whether it is correct or not, the data that is being modified or not. We need to check that. And how can we check whether the data is being modified or not? That is the problem that we need to solve, and this is a very genuine problem in case of cloud. So data corruption happens in cloud, and we need to check it. Okay, so how data owner or data user will be sure that the outsourced data is correct with cloud service provider? Okay, so CSP, cloud service provider, they may behave unfaithfully. Okay, so we are not saying that every time they will keep on cheating us, but they can cheat in two different ways. The first one is for monetary reasons. CSP may delete the data that's rarely accessed. Okay, that is what I told. Suppose we have not accessed the data for 1 year or so, then what they will do? They can delete the data. Okay, they can delete the data, and they will keep that space to somebody else. Okay, and that we don't want. Next one is CSP might hide data loss to protect its reputation. Okay, so they might hide the data loss. They will not tell us that the data loss has happened. Okay, so therefore, what we need to do, we need to ensure how can we the data that is stored in the cloud, we need to be ensured that it is correct. Okay, how to efficiently verify? So simply downloading the data and verifying is not practical, right? Because we stored a huge amount of data in the cloud, and it is not at all possible to download all the data and then verify them. Okay, we cannot do that. So therefore, what are the things that we need to see here is how can we verify without downloading the entire data. So this is the system model. Okay, so system model, what we are keeping? We are keeping a data owner, and different data users are also available. We are updating the data, that is M1, M2, MM, and with respect to data M, we are keeping a signature. Signature is nothing but it is a digital signature, like normal signature that we do. We have some digital signature. Digital signature, what is the use? Like, it will tell that the data nobody has changed. Okay, if you will change the data, the signature will change. It is like that. Okay, so therefore, suppose somebody has changed M1 to M1 prime, then the signature of M1 prime will not be sigma 1. It is not possible. Okay, that is the property of digital signature. Okay, and these are some cryptographic techniques. I am not going into details. So for the time being, you assume that we have some message and correspondingly we have sigma. Okay, this signature we have, and then we can easily see. Okay, so and we have a auditor. Okay, this is an auditor who needs to audit the data whether it is correct or not, because data users, they may not have sufficient amount of power or sufficient amount of resources so that they can check. It is not at all possible. So therefore, we are telling that we will keep a third party auditor who will do this task. Okay. So let us check the overview of a scheme. Generally, I mean, before going into the more details of the scheme, let us see how, what is the public auditing mechanism, how to audit data that is present in the cloud, how can we do that. So to check that, we have three entities. One is data owner, one is cloud service provider, one is third party auditor. Okay, this auditor is a third party because they are nowhere related. On the request of data user, they are auditing. Okay, at the same time there are certain requirements, and by each and every slide I will try to explain what are the different mechanisms that we are dealing with. So first one is data owner. What it will do, it will generate some private and public parameters, like I explained in case of Amazon AWS, how to store the data in AWS. Okay, in that I explained you. Then the next step is what? Once the files are given, then signature it will generate. Okay, this is digital signature, and this data that is generated from the signature, these are known as verification metadata. Through this signature only we can verify. Okay, so signature is very much essential. Without signature we cannot ensure integrity of a data. Then once this signature is generated, the file and the verification metadata, we will send it to the cloud, and in the cloud now the file as well as the verification metadata is stored. Now TPA, what it will do, because the data is already stored in the cloud, it will routinely, not every day, maybe within a week once, what it will do, it will send some audit message. Okay, what is this audit message? This audit message will keep some information like these are the blocks for which you send me the corresponding signature, and this is a randomly generated audit message. Okay, so let us suppose I have 20,000 blocks, so I will ask randomly 10 blocks, you give me the corresponding signature I want to verify. Okay, like that. Then what cloud service provider will do, based on the audit message, it will generate some proof. Okay, what it will do, it will generate some proof and it will send the proof to us. Once the audit response is received by the third party auditor, what it will do, it will verify whether the response is correct or not. What it will do, it will verify whether the response is correct or not. So this is what is the overview of public auditing scheme. So data is stored in the cloud and we need to audit whether the data that is stored in the cloud is correct or not. That we need to check. So data owner what they will do? They will generate the key, okay, public private key, because without generation of key nothing operations can be done. Next one is file we will give, and from that file we will put a signature and we will get the verification metadata. Okay, we will get the verification metadata. Once the verification metadata is generated, then what we will do, we will send the file and the verification metadata to the cloud service provider. Once it reached to the cloud service provider, okay, once it reached to the cloud service provider, then there are different techniques or by which the third party auditor can verify. What is the job of third party auditor? Its job is to verify the data that is present in the cloud, whether it is intact or not. And it cannot verify each and every block because we have huge amount of data. It cannot verify each and every block. So what it will do, randomly it will select few blocks and it will tell that it will send in the audit message. Once it send in the audit message, then we will give the file. Okay, then we will ask to generate a proof. Once the proof is generated, then we will ask for sending the response. Once the response is received, we will tell that we will verify, okay, and then we will tell yes, the data that is stored in the cloud is probably correct, because we are not verifying each and every block. So we are selecting few blocks and we are checking. So we will say it is probably correct. Okay, that is what we will say. Now let us see one by one. We will try to develop different schemes, and at last we will come up with a scheme where we will use blockchain technology and we will try to solve the problem. So first one is very basic scheme. Okay, here this MAC is there. Okay, so MAC is a function which takes a secret key and the block information. So once this information is given to this function, what it will do, it will generate a sigma. Okay, it will generate a sigma, and reverse is not possible. You give sigma, it cannot tell what is sk and bi. Okay, it is not possible. Now we have data owner, we have third party auditor, and we have cloud service provider. So data owner, what it will do, it will create the block, okay, and then it will generate the signature. How it will generate the signature? Using this formula. Okay, so MAC is a function, it will give bi, okay, block it will give, then I, then sk it will give, and it will set. And this sk needs to be transferred to the TPA. Okay, otherwise how can it will verify? Because TPA will ask block number 1 to n. Then this fellow will give block number, signature, block number, signature. Okay, cloud will return. Now TPA will verify whether the signature is matching or not. Because using these blocks only, it will try to check. Okay. Now, what is the drawback here? The drawback is not privacy preserving, because this third party auditor, it can see what are the data available in the cloud. How can it see? Because we are sending this block information here. Okay, we are sending the block information. Once you send the block information, they can easily see what are the things available. Okay, so but the audit demands retrieval of DOS data, that is creating issue. So this basic scheme 1 is not a suitable solution for our requirement. Then let us go for another basic scheme. Okay, here data owner, cloud service provider, third party auditor is there. So now what we are doing, we are creating different keys. Okay, that is key 1, 2, 3 up to S. Okay, different keys we are created, and we have created the signatures. For B1, the signature is sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma n. Okay, and those are created using key 1. Then similarly using key 2 we created signatures. And how did we create? Like this, using the similar formula, but it is repeated for s number of keys. Okay, it is repeated for s number of keys. In basic scheme 1 we took only one key, but here we are taking different keys just to see whether the privacy that we were losing, whether we can get it or not. Okay. So now block 1 to up to n is given to the cloud service provider, and this key 1, key 2, key 3, key s, all these things we gave it to the third party auditor. Okay. Now third party auditor doesn't have the block information. Okay, doesn't have the block information. Cloud has the block information. Of course, these blocks are encrypted. I am not going into detail. I am simply telling that blocks are there. But our basic goal is to check whether the cloud has modified any blocks or not. Okay, and who will check? TPA will check this. Okay, that is what is our goal. Next, TPA will give a tau. Okay, this tau is any value, varies from 1 to s. That is, we are telling whether it is key 1 or key 2 or key 3. Anything that we will tell. Okay, then this CSP, what it will do, it will send the corresponding signature of the block using tau, right? Because this is the formula. These blocks are available. Using this block, if we will give the tau, then anybody can calculate sigma I. So now sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma n computed using tau as the key. Now that tau is a value between 1 to s, right? That tau is a value between 1 to s. So if it is matching, okay, with any of the key, then we will say yes, data is correct. We will say data is correct. So what is the improvement we got from the basic scheme 1? We got that TPA doesn't see the data. Okay, so TPA cannot see the data that is available there. Okay, but what is the drawback? Drawback is one key can be used only once. Okay, one key can only be used once. You cannot use it multiple times. Okay, if you will use multiple times, then CSP, because it has calculated the signature, now suppose tau 1 I gave, it has calculated the signature, and once the signatures are calculated, then it will delete the block and keep the signature. Okay, next time whenever you will give the same tau, it can send the signature without having the data. Then how will you ensure that? You cannot ensure that, right? So therefore, this is the limitation of basic scheme 2. Okay, this is the limitation of basic scheme 2. So TPA has to keep a state remembering which key has been used. So TPA has to remember this information, which key has been used. Okay, so this is not that much easy. Next, it is not blockless verifiable. That means what blockless verifiable means? Means I need to keep a single block which will consist of different values coming from all the blocks. Okay? So I will keep a linear combination of blocks, and that linear combination of block, if I can verify that is correct, then I will tell all the blocks that gave the value for this linear combination it is correct. Okay, that I can do, right? So like this, we need to see whether it is blockless verifiable or not. Okay. So therefore, both these basic schemes are not supporting blockless verification. Now, what is blockless verification? Blockless verification is, so block 1 I got verification metadata, block 2 I got verification metadata, block 3 I got verification metadata. Now what I will do, I will aggregate all these blocks and I will create an aggregate verification metadata. It is a linear combination of the data block signature. Now this signature, if I will tell that this signature is verified, then I will tell the all these block 1, 2 up to n, they are correct. Okay. Okay. Next we will see a scheme by Sham et al. In 2008. Okay. So they considered this blockless verification mechanism and they developed a scheme. So this is secret key and this is public key. Then this is how signature is generated. Okay. MI is the block on the top and U is a random number that is collected from this group. Okay. Now this message and signature is transferred to the CSP. Okay. And once this message and sigma is transferred to the CSP, now TPA, what it will do, this third party auditor, it will randomly choose certain indices. It will randomly choose certain indices out of the range, okay, from I, where I is varies from this, how many blocks we have, okay, that is M1, M2, Mn, so n number of blocks are there. So out of n, I will choose certain indices. Then randomly choose certain coefficients, okay. These are also some random numbers. Now this is audit message, okay. This audit message I will send to CSP. Now CSP will have this I and Vi values. Okay. CSP will have this I and Vi values. Then what CSP will do? CSP will compute two parameters. One is mu, another one is sigma. And this is nothing but the linear combination I am doing. See here, Vi, Mi I am calculating and I am doing a summation over this. Okay, and this is a linear combination. Similarly, for sigma also we will do a linear combination, but it is in terms of product. Okay, it is in terms of product I need to do. Once it is computed mu and sigma, then I need to submit this mu and sigma to the TPA, and TPA will use a verification equation and it will check whether this equation is correct or not. If this equation is correct, that means TPA can tell that it is apple. Okay, it is apple. So third party can verify, anybody can verify. Why? Because H is a public hash function, G is public, okay, U is public, U is publicly known. Here you see U is public, G is public, only secret key is secret, and the parameters that is sigma and mu we are using. So TPA can easily verify, and here we are achieving blockless verification. But the issue is it is not privacy preserving. Why? Because from this mu, okay, anybody can detect what is the value of secret parameter. Okay, and that to resolve that in 2010, Wang et al. What they did, they proposed a scheme, okay, where privacy preserving is guaranteed. So everything is same. So I am keeping this. What is the changes that I am telling? Changes is from this sigma, okay, they did what? They did randomly picked up a R, and that is nothing but W to the power R. They calculated, okay, and then to this mu they added. To this mu they added, because anybody can cheat the cloud if they will send like two messages, okay. Let us suppose this TPA, we cannot trust TPA also, okay, because this is an auditor. So if same value of Vi it is providing, then V1 M1 plus V2 M2, okay, then from that linear combination you can easily solve what is the value of the message. So therefore, we need to randomize this mu prime. So for that we did this. Once this randomization of mu prime is done, okay, then the scheme becomes privacy preserving. Okay, the scheme becomes privacy preserving, or we can say the scheme is achieving privacy preserving technique. Okay. Next, it is not supporting batch auditing. That means what? Batch auditing means it is not that third-party auditor will check each and every time. Okay, it will check the auditing. Okay, it will not do that. So therefore, what we need to do? We need to check before auditing. We need to check, okay, whether I can combine auditing of multiple users, because multiple users can give a request for auditing. That we need to check. Unfortunately, this was not done by one. Okay. Then what is this batch auditing? There are k data users having k files on the same cloud. Then we can write a single equation and verify it. Okay, because they are having same third party auditor, same cloud data is stored. Why the TPA will do the auditing check by writing the same equations multiple times? It is not required. Okay, so we can combine their queries and save computation. So how can we do that? Okay, using different techniques we can do that. So that is what is next technique. Okay, so next we proposed a technique, and that we are going to see blockless verification, privacy preserving, batch auditing we need to see. Okay, so this scheme we proposed in 2016. Okay, so where data owner is there, then this is how we generated the signature. After the signature is generated, we transfer the message and signature to the cloud. Okay, then the TPA, what it will do, this TPA, it will randomly choose certain index and it will transfer this index to the CSP, the similar technique only. Okay, the same technique we used, only we changed the signature generation procedure. Okay, why we changed it? To achieve different properties. Okay, then it will generate the proof. Once the proof is generated, then we will send these values, and then like this the TPA can verify. Okay, once it is verified, we can tell that privacy of MI is also preserved. Okay, this privacy is already preserved because we are sending G to the power of beta mod P. Okay, we are not directly sending beta, and we are achieving blockless verification. And we proved that it is storage correctness is happening. But later we found that there is an attack that can possible in this scheme. And what is the attack? Like some user can calculate signature like this and signature like this, and then if they will divide this, they can easily find X. So X is nothing but it is the private key. Okay, so we modified the scheme again, and now what we modified a scheme and we used a hashed key. Okay, earlier we used only a hash function, that is H. Now we use a keyed hash. Okay, keyed hash function. So using this keyed hash function, that attack will not be possible. So therefore this modified scheme achieves the features that we asked earlier. Okay, all the features are achieved. And here the assumption was that cloud service provider and TPA will not collude in the system. Okay, if they will collude, then they can easily tamper with the data, and that thing we don't want. Okay, so for that we propose this scheme, and for this also storage correctness we did, and then we proved that it is, you cannot pause the signature, and along with that we detected or we analyzed one probabilistic measure. Okay, why we did? Because we told that we will randomly choose few blocks, right? Like if you will see here, you see randomly we are choosing certain indices. Though the message is having n number of blocks, we are choosing only few. Okay, we are choosing very few. So whenever we are choosing very few number of blocks, okay, whenever we are choosing very few number of blocks, then what will happen? Then we can say that probably this much data is correct. We cannot say 100% we are sure that no block has been modified. That we cannot say, but we can randomly see. So what is the result we got? CPA has to randomly select only 200 blocks out of 62,500 blocks to achieve the detection probability of at least 99%. That means what? Let us suppose in cloud 62,500 blocks are there and CSP has modified 2% of the block. Okay, CSP has modified 2% of the block. If CSP has modified 2% of the block, then if CPA will randomly select only 200 blocks, then we can say 99% the data is correct. Okay, so therefore this is how the scheme is very much advantage. Okay, this result we got, and because we are selecting only 200 blocks out of 62,500 to achieve a 99% detection probability, this is very much efficient scheme. Also, we extended the scheme to achieve the batch auditing. Okay, batch auditing I already told, because instead of one equation we can use multiple equations. So here you see one equation was there and now we modified it to k number of equations. So now if k data users are telling us to verify, then we can easily verify them. Okay? We can easily verify them using a single equation. So therefore batch auditing also supported. So privacy preserving, blockless verification, batch auditing, and the last one that we achieved is data dynamics. So data dynamics is what? Like let us suppose this is the index and this is the block data. Okay. Now if I will try to insert any data in between, then the index number will change. Okay, because I inserted a data M2 prime. This M2, its index will become 3 and M2 prime, the index will become 2. Similarly, if I will delete some data, then also the index will change. And because while calculating the signature or the verification metadata, we are using this I parameter, that is the index. Okay, so therefore different signatures need to be computed again, and that we don't want. Okay, so signature needs to be recomputed even though the content of the blocks are not changed. And why it is happening? Because the index number is changing. Okay, because the index number is changing, and that we don't want. So for that we proposed a index hash table where we collected block number, version number, and a random number. So this combination is used as a signature. Now if I will insert any block, then I can insert it correctly. Okay, there is no issue. This combination will remain intact. Like here you see M21 and R2. M21 R2 is still there, and I inserted another block M2 prime 1 and R2 prime. This I will use. Okay, so data dynamics is also achieved in our scheme. That's why using index as table. So this is how anybody, if they want to update, delete, or insert the data, even if they update the data, insert data, delete data, still this data dynamics we can do. We can verify the data even if we do. Okay, so this is a comparison of different schemes. Okay, so our scheme, we achieved blockless verification, we achieved privacy preserving, data dynamics, also batch auditing, and it is lightweight verification that is only achieved by our scheme. Why we say it is lightweight verification? Because the total computation cost that is achieved in our scheme is very less. Okay, so here you see, if the number of queried blocks, if I am keep on increasing, the total computation cost of other schemes are increasing. Okay, here it is increasing very less. Okay, the slope is very less, and here it is high. So in our proposed scheme, it is increasing too much. Okay, it is too less. So therefore we said that our scheme is lightweight verification. So this is a scheme that we proposed, and in case of cloud, if anybody is modifying the data, okay, if anybody is modifying the data, then we can easily detect. Easily we can detect the modification. Now, one assumption we made here, what is the assumption we made? That cloud and this third party, they will not collude. Okay, they will not collude. But if they will collude, trusted third party, if they will collude with the cloud, then how can we detect the misbehavior of the cloud? That is what we are currently solving. And we already solved it using the blockchain. So I believe all of you know what is blockchain and how can we use it. So I will tell you how we solve this problem using blockchain technology. Okay. So what we did, we kept a owner, data owner, and in data owner we are generating the key, then file that already similar to the scheme, we are keeping it in server. But the query response and the verification, this we are keeping it in blockchain. Okay, Ethereum blockchain we are creating, in that we are keeping this information. And why we are keeping this information in the blockchain? Because the verification that we are doing, okay, if we will keep the information, then later on we can check. Okay, later on we can check if any dispute occurs. Even if they collude, they cannot cheat us. Okay, so that's the reason why blockchain enabled probable data position scheme helps us. Okay, so what we did, we did we used a blockchain smart contract to act as a mediator in case of dispute. Okay, so therefore earlier trusted third party was there, including that cloud was there. So trusted third party and cloud both were existing in the system. But whenever we want, they do not collude with each other. If they will collude, then they can easily break the system. But now, if they will break the system, then that corresponding dispute we can resolve using a smart contract. Okay, that we can resolve using a smart contract. And therefore, this is a data owner, then this is a server, and this is a auditor. We took three different entities, and these three different entities, using any communication, that is the verification communication that we are using, this is done in smart contract. Okay, and whenever there is a problem that occur between the server and the auditor, we use a blockchain technique, and using that we solved it. Now coming to the implementation of this, what we did, I think all these tools has been covered to you. Okay, so Ganesh is a local Ethereum, because in the original blockchain network, if we will try, or Bitcoin network, it is very difficult to create a network. Okay, very difficult to create a block. So what we did in the Ganesh, it is a local Ethereum. Okay, in that we deployed the smart contract, and smart contract we wrote it in Solidity. Okay, I believe Solidity is covered. Okay, so in Solidity is a programming language where you can write smart contract, and we deployed it in Ganesh, that is local Ethereum. Then the code that we wrote, okay, because for auditor some task is there, for cloud some task is there, for user some task is there. All these things, what we did, we wrote it in Python, and then using a truffle development environment, we communicated with the local Ethereum. Okay, so in this way, if any auditor or cloud, if they will collude, then the smart contract that is written using Solidity, okay, they can easily detect it, the attack that is possible, that they can detect. And it is a very well known problem, okay, because nowadays we cannot trust anybody, and we can say that they can easily communicate with each other and they can collude. Still, even if they communicate, even if they collude, we can detect. So this is what we implemented. So therefore, I started with a very simple solution, that is basic scheme 1, where there was some problem. Then we come up with a basic scheme 2. Then few related works I discussed. One is Sam et al. Schemes, another one is Wang et al. Schemes. And then we propose two different schemes. This is the third scheme in that same series. Okay, because of different issues, and in each scheme we try to resolve different issues. In the first scheme there was an attack, okay, and we could achieve only privacy preserving and the blockless verification. In the second one we avoided the attack, and then but we assume that the cloud and this trusted third party, they will not collude with each other. Again, whenever we come across blockchain technology, then we propose a technique where even if they collude, still we can detect whether they are cheating or not. And how did we resolve it? We used a smart contract, okay, to act as a mediator. Because of this smart contract, we could detect whether they are cheating or not. Okay, so like this, some cyber security problems we can solve. Okay, then what is the conclusion? Conclusion is we need to protect the data using encryption. Okay, and at the same time, some blockchain enabled periodic data auditing is required. Okay, blockchain enabled periodic data auditing is required, because we don't know whether the cloud and the trusted third party, whether they will collude or not. Even if they collude, then we can detect. Okay, if we will enable blockchain enabled, we will do PDP. Otherwise, if they will collude, we cannot detect. So smart contract is helping us in resolving the dispute whenever they collude. So apart from this, some research directions that I thought I will keep, okay, because these research directions will really help in solving the problem, cyber security problem. First one is blockchain powered traceable solution for the corona vaccine wastage in the supply chain. So like you might have come across the vaccines, okay, that need a certain temperature. Okay, if the temperature will go beyond that, then we cannot use it. Okay, we have to destroy it. Now because there is a Serum Institute was developing it. Okay, they need to transfer it to the district hospital via many supply chains. Okay, then there are let us assume that only two intermediators are available. Okay, like one is Serum Institute, it will give it to supplier C, and supplier C will give to supplier B, and they will give it to district hospital. It is just for explanation purpose I am using it, but generally we keep only many suppliers will be there. Then suppose when the vaccine is received at district hospital, it was wasted, okay, because it is not preserving in specific temperature. Okay, specific temperature is not maintained. Then what? How to find who is the culprit, whether supplier C or supplier B? Okay, that we need to check. Now, if you will ask B, then B will say I received from C in hot temperature. It will say, okay, the temperature was not in the specific range in C. And if you will see ask to C, C will say that I provided in appropriate temperature to B. Okay, it might not have used proper fridge or ice chamber. Now C is blaming B, B is blaming to C. Now how to detect? Okay, so you can tell that let us keep a temperature sensor at the warehouse and the truck of the supplier B and C. Okay, so still they can tamper the log by hacking into it. Okay, they can tamper the log, because you will create a log file and in that you will store. So therefore what we can do, this we can store this in a blockchain, and we can store this temperature details. Okay, so these are the things that you can do. Apart from this, another problem that we are working, okay, so that problem is okay, identification of fake drug or food items using barcode. Okay, so challenges related to counterfeit drugs. Nowadays, if you will see in the news that many drugs that are coming into the market that are not correct, okay, that are counterfeit drugs. So how to detect them? Okay, so for that also some ineffective supply chain management are happening. So the barcode, we will collect the information, and that information we will store it using blockchain. So these are some of the research directions in which we started working on, and you can also work. Okay, similarly, you can find out, like it is not that each and every field you can use, each and every cyber security problem you can solve using blockchain, but you have to see where there is exactly a requirement for blockchain. Okay, that is very much essential. Then the last one is that I am trying to discuss is electronic voting based scheme based on smart contracts. Okay, so this Sierra Leone is a country, okay, where it is an African country. World's first blockchain supported election they did. Okay, so therefore, and if you will see in Indian context also, there is a startup who is exploring a blockchain based e-voting, and in 2024 they are telling that we will try to incorporate. So therefore, electronic voting scheme based on smart contracts is also essential, and here some attacks can be possible, like one voter might give vote twice. So how to stop all these things? This is another research direction in which we started working on. Okay, so with this I will end my talk, and thank you for patiently listening. Okay, I think I covered it within the allotted time, and over to you, madam.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful presentation. You have given a lot of information on the current challenges in cloud security and what are the importance of data security and privacy. And you have covered a lot of points on general data protection regulation as well, and how to solve these kind of data security issues by using blockchain. So all those points will be really will be useful for all participants. So thanks a lot again, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Any participants, any questions you can ask, or if after going through the slides also, if you find later any issues, you can contact me. Okay. So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you for giving an opportunity. Thank you.
Participants, today afternoon around 3 o'clock we have evaluation for this FDP. So you will have 25 questions, and each question will carry 2 marks, and the duration of the evaluation is 30 minutes. So we will connect around 3 o'clock, and the Google form, the link for the Google form will be shared in this chat box of this Google Meet. So you can you have to log in again for this meeting, and you have to submit the response through the link, whatever you are receiving through this chat box. Any doubt in the evaluation? Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
So the Google form will not be shared through email because there are a lot of registrations, but we have few participants. So the Google form will be shared through this Google chat, that is Google Meet chat. Okay, then we can connect at 3 o'clock.